Now let's head this morning to South Africa. We're starting the newspapers with the Sowetan on the front page of Sowetan. Missing technician sings Ntumba trial. Missing technician sings Ntumba trial. That's the big story there. Witness known as Mash vanished after downloading CCTV footage which shows cops who could have been involved in the shooting of Ntokozi's Ntumba. That's on page 2. Now, still on the front page, we have farming Stockville seed to succeed on page 11. Seller shoots from the hip on page 6. Lungisi Ngema returns to scandal on page 3. And the final story we have here, phantom pregnancy. Society to blame. That's on page 5. Now, if you want to find out the details of any of the stories, head over to get yourself a copy of the Sowetan newspaper. Let's come back here to, let's move over to Kenya.
To Kenya, actually,
Yeah.
yes. We're going to start or share rather stories from the Daily Nation in Kenya. It says, Wetangula link to ballot printer. Remember, the Kenyan elections, are inching closer and closer. And I'll share what it says. It says, making of a scandal. Ford Kenyan leader and key Ruto ally cavorted with officials of a Greek firm just months before they clinched a multi-million shilling lender to supply ballots and other election management materials to the IEBC. New revelations that detail invitations to the bidders to tour Kenya and the sending off an associate of the Bungoma senator to Greek show. Now, the Raila camp is alleging well-oiled plots to manipulate the election results. You can find more of that on page 7 on the Daily Nation. Fear of packed presidential race as court reverses rules. That's also on the Daily Nation. That's about, about the major thing, that has been discussed across Kenya today is the elections. And, of course, pages 12 and 13, you can see sermons on the Mount. And that is still with regards to the elections. On the campaign trail, Ruto sustained his attack on ungrateful Kenyatta and other things that you might read concerning the Kenyan elections. Those are the stories on the Daily Nation.
All right, now let's come back to Nigeria and start off with the first newspaper this morning on the front page. A big story there, which is sort of sinking the heart of many Nigerians, not just because of what's happened, but the audacity that this could even happen. Katsina bandits on the rampage opened fire on Buhari's convoy, injure 2. They killed the Assistant Commissioner of Police in another ambush, and gunmen have taken over our public clinics. State government raises the alarm. We'll be looking into this story in a moment. At the top of the paper here we have, we'll call off strike immediately, only if ellipsis. ASU. Now, ASU has given the conditions, we know some of the conditions, and that they've given, which has resulted in this strike that has lasted over 140 days. Yobe North. Senate President in more trouble as Machina remains adamant, cries out over plots to forge his withdrawal letter. Still on the front page, Asari Dokubo attacks Peter Obi, says he's a scam. Don't let the obedience come after you. This is what we see in politics, of course. There's going to be conversations here and there concerning the character and integrity of those running for office. Fuel consumption probe, Rep summons Silva, Kiari, others. Fresh communal clash claims 15 lives in Ebonyi. Insecurity is a huge problem in Nigeria. Pockets here. 3 lives, 2 lives lost, 15 lives lost, 30 lives lost. By the time we do an accumulation of all the numbers, or we do a collation of all the numbers of people who lost, we'll see how much, a total rather of all the people who've lost. We'll see how much lives.
Yeah, but, I think, as we count numbers, it's also important, that we humanize these persons.
Mention their names.
Yeah, mention their names. I hope that we get there, I hope. It might be, some people might argue that it might be a lot of work, to have to mention all 25 names or 13 names.
But it's important.
It's important, if these are Nigerian citizens that the Nigerian government is truly responsible for, then we should be able to honor them at least that way instead of just saying numbers. Because now lives are almost like statistics. When you hear about these attacks, it's like statistics,
So maybe part of why, this is not a good enough excuse, but maybe part of why the numbers or the names are not being mentioned is the fact that we already have a data collation problem in Nigeria.
Yeah,
we can't say we have a data that shows every Nigerian.
A lot of it isn't
in
reported.
Western countries where when someone dies, it's very easy for them to identify. You have a social security number. There's just something easily, they can identify the person on the go.
I agree with you.
It's a problem. Someone's killed yesterday, they want to report it in the news today. how do they get the names? It will take a while before they even know who these people are. But it is important, that we mention their names. A few more stories and it's a wrap here. Lagos sacks, this is a very interesting story. Lagos sacks judge who dissolved marriage, snatched impregnated complainant's wife. I won't say anything further. Why we won't beg Wike? Sorry?
Is this moot court?
No, this isn't moot court. This is real life.
This is real life.
Why we won't beg Wike, PDP BOT member, cyber fraudster Hush Puppy knows fate. September 21 as U.S. court postpones date for second time. Two more stories here. Kinsmen pay tributes to Okilo 14 years after demise. They say he was a shining light, and this was said by the ex-commissioner Iwori Sir Maxon. Final story here, which has left him trending on Twitter. Otedola visits Tinubu in France, I beg your pardon, backs his presidential bid as APC women begs Tinubu to choose female running mate. Of course, Otedola has been trending on Twitter for this reason. That's all that I can take on the front page of the first news. Let's move on to the next paper.
A female running mate will actually be interesting.
I don't see that happening.
Of course I don't. I don't see happening.
Let's not play. It ain't happening.
I don't see it happening either, but it will be interesting. Anybody who decides to go that route.
Okay.
Maybe. Let's see how it goes. And of course, you also mentioned that Sari Dokuba. It's pretty interesting how, like you said, a lot of questions will be asked about the candidates that are running for elections. But, it's only just sad that a lot of times, it's people who have questionable character that, asking these same questions.
I was going to say that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. That's all.
All right. Blueprint, the newspaper's coming up next, still here in Nigeria. Yes, it says 20 months after Kankara attacks, terrorists open fire on presidential convoy, injured 2. It says security agents countered, sad and unwelcome, says the presidency. Team arrives Daura ahead Buhari's Salah visit. And also explosives, gunshots rock Kuje prison. Residents flee. Katsina, also in the news, says Katsina shot 69 health institutions. Hajj 2022. Over 37,000 Nigerian pilgrims already in Saudi Arabia. Nakan boss to supervise operation for remaining 6,000. And also EU offers Nigeria $1.3 billion to diversify economy. Court orders NECO to reinstate dismissed staff Beje and Uto. And my missing WAEC result second best in 1976, says Okowa. Boosting women's business through First Gem loan, and I think that's an advert. We can also find port congestion looms, importers, agents, abandoned vehicles. Page 17 of the Blueprint 2023. Unless we change the character of the Nigerian state, nothing will change, says Professor Saliu. And I can squeeze in one more. I think it says on the top of the screen, Zulum, the Borno State governor, 3 camps already filled with ex-insurgents and families in Borno. That's on the top of the screen on the Blueprint newspapers this morning. Those are the stories that we have time for in this first half of Breakfast Central.